What's good, everybody? This is Emerald Knight Leon back with another deck analysis. And yes, your eyes do not deceive you. This is an Ulforce. And yes, your eyes don't deceive you again. There's only 3 Rinas. Some of us do not have the money to get Rina. I was able to get my 3rd copy today after buying pack after pack because I do not have the money to really buy a lot of booster boxes outside of what I normally can get when the set launches. And as of right now, March 4th, Rina has jumped up in price, and the regular art version of her is about 20 to 30 cents cheaper than the alt art, which is about $64. Even getting my 3rd copy, which I actually did have to buy. I had to trade in a bunch of my other alt arts and some secrets. The store I went, apparently they needed Susanos. Didn't know that, but was willing to part with them. At the end of the day, I only had to pay out of my pocket about $10. I was able to basically bring it down to about $10. So the cards I gave were about $53 worth. That's not the issue here. The issue is she's a secret rare that is a Tamer. I personally do not believe Tamers should be secrets, especially if they are that integral to a deck like Rina is. Because yes, OG Rina is a decent card. I run her in my deck, but the new Rina, you need her. Everybody and their mother is saying you need 4 copies. I'm here to say you don't need 4. If you don't have the money and you're able to get 3, don't stress. Just don't stress on yourself. Please don't. Don't break your bank. I'm begging you. I'm begging people. Do not break your bank. Okay? Especially where she is this expensive after Nationals. Okay? Okay. I'm going to hope that any viewers said yes, I will not break the bank. Moving on, let's talk about this deck though. For our Digimon, our level 2s, we are running 4 copies of Wanyamon from BT-11. Wanyamon here is the new Tamer. It's a very good Tamer. You're going to see it in a lot of blue decks. You're going to see it in Blue Flare. What Wanyamon does is it has, when attacking once per turn, if you have a blue Tamer in play, draw 1. Now, there have been people who debate on whether you should play Wanyamon here, or if you should play, and I'm going here, Digimon from EX3. Because Digimon, and I will jump ahead here, Digimon's effect is all turns once per turn. When this Digimon with Dramon or Examon in its name becomes unsuspended, this Digimon gets plus 1000. And the whole point of Ulforce is constantly unsuspending to gain multiple checks. Honestly, depending on how you want to run the deck, either can work. I personally prefer Wanya because I want draw power. I have kind of terrible luck a lot of time with getting the cards I need. So being able to get those draw powers is very, very useful for me. Now, going into our level 3s. We are running about 12 level 3s right now. Some people run 11, some people run 10, some people run 13. Personally, what you see here is actually not what I originally ran. I actually want to test this idea out, and that is why I'm pitching it to the community. But for our level 3s, we are running 4 copies of BT-11's Veedramon. This is the one you need to run 4 of. And I know that sounds hypocritical of me to say after people say run 4 copies of Rina. No, you run 4 copies of Veedramon because it's not hard to get Veedramon. And it's a good searcher. It lets you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. It adds 1 Digimon with Veedramon. So either Veedramon, Veedramon, Arrow Veedramon, or UlforceVeedramon. And then it also lets you add a blue Tamer, and then the rest go to the bottom. It also has an inheritable where your turn once per turn when you play a blue Tamer, gain 1 memory. The reason you run 4 of it is because you're banking on this Veedramon digivolving into this Veedramon because they have the exact same inheritable. So when you do go into your BT-11 Ulforce, or even in a regular Ulforce, you want to be able to refund what you are making if you have to hard play a Tamer, if you're not using Ulforce's effect to play a Tamer. Or if you are using Ulforce's effect to play a Tamer, you are regaining not regaining, you're just increasing the amount of memory you're making from it. It can also help recoup the cost from going into Ulforce since it is a 4 cost to play. Now, for our other level 3s, we are running 3 copies of Veedramon from BT-2. Originally in this deck, I was running the starter deck Veedramon because I needed draw power as I only had 2 Rinas at the time. And I really felt that early game, if I need to find my Ulforce, I would want that Veedramon because I can then chain it so that it specifically will go first, then go into other draw mechanics. But this Veedramon specifically will be once per turn during your turn. When this Digimon becomes unsuspended during your main phase, trigger draw 1. Now, whether that comes up enough, because you tend to want to keep your Ulforce being an evade blocker with Rina, who knows? But if it's on something like, say, I don't know, an UlforceVeedramon, that can work. Now, our other level 3s, before I get on to the experiment I'm running, is 2 copies of EX1's Veedramon. Now, you can fudge around with the ratio between BT2 and EX1, depending on what you kind of want. Do you want the memory off of unsuspending, or do you want the draw power off of unsuspending? It's really up to you. But the new experiment I'm running is 3 copies of BT-9 Jellymon. So the reason I want to run 3 copies of Jellymon is because we're running 2 copies of a very specific Kiyotaka, or Kiyoshiro. I'm sorry, I have Danganronpa on the brain. This also has a nice main effect where if you play a blue Tamer, draw 1. And its inheritable lets you, when an effect adds a card to your hand, return one of your opponent's level 3s to their hand. So say if your opponent has 2 Digimon, one is a level 5, one is a level 3, you go into your BT-11 Ulforce, it'll unsuspend, you'll use its effect to bounce to level 5. Because a card gets added to your opponent's hand, you can then proc Jellymon's inheritable to return the level 3 as well. So you're going to be getting more bang for your buck off of using Ulforce. Now, going for our level 4s, we are running 4 copies of BT-11's Veedramon. It has essentially the exact same effect as Jellymon, where once per turn, during your turn, when you play a blue Tamer, draw 1. It's inheritable. Once per turn, your turn, when you play a blue Tamer, gain 1 memory. For our other level 4s, we are running 1 copy of Kumamon just for a hybrid. It can be a Lobomon if you wanted. Doesn't matter. You at least just want 1. There have been times where, say, in a Machine Dramon match I was in, I needed to get around him having Analog Man. He had 2 copies of Analog Man out. I had 2 Digimon out and a Kuma in hand, and I was able to basically use up his Analog Mans of redirecting for game into going into Kuma for game. We are running 2 copies of Jerry, so we are running 3 copies of Leomon just to have an extra blocker, and his on deletion effect of gain 2 memory and draw 1 is nice to have, honestly. It can help pass turn if needed, and if you do have him get on delete his on deletion during your turn, it gives you more memory to work with in order to go into Ulforce and then just keep swinging for days. We also are running 2 copies of Veedramon 0. This is the promo Veedramon. It has a when attacking, if you have a blue Tamer, you may trash the top 3 cards of your deck to give this Digimon plus 2000 DP for the turn. We're not running him for that. We're not. His inheritable is nice, though. When attacking, you may place 3 non-Digi-Egg cards from your trash at the bottom of your deck in any order to activate draw 1. So if I were to be in, say, UlforceVeedramon from the starter deck, it has jamming. I can swing, get Veedramon Zero's effect to go off. Say my opponent, like I lost some cards earlier in the game or something. I can basically use that to basically refund those back into my deck and just get a free draw. Potentially getting me a Rina if I go into Ulforce, or getting me an Ulforce so I can use the Rina in hand. Now, there is a version of this deck that I've heard about where it's running 3 copies of the promo Ulforce to just bank on the constant trashing from the promo Veedramon 0 and Arrow Veedramon 0. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I've heard it is a decent substitute if you're not running the extra Ulforce that I run. So, as for our level 5s though, we are running 7 level 5s. We are running 4 copies of BT-11's Arrow Veedramon. It has the inheritable of when attacking once per turn, activate one of your Rina Shinomiya's on-play effects. So you're going to activate it to use it on this Rina here so that you can gain blocker and evade consistently. Or if you're actually trying to set up another Ulforce, you can activate this Rina, which lets you reveal top 3 cards of your deck and add a Digimon with V in its name to your hand, which is essentially everything except for Jelly, Kuma, Leo. What are the odds? Its main effect, though, is what we want. It's why we run 4 of him. Main, once per turn, by suspending this Digimon, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add all blue Tamers among them to your hand, and the rest go to the bottom. So how this kind of interaction is going to work is you're going to suspend him, you're going to get the Tamers, you're going to go into your BT-11 Ulforce, you're going to be able to play one of your Tamers from your hand, preferably it's going to be Rina here, and then it's going to unsuspend, letting it attack, and then you can just bounce things back all willy-nilly depending on what you want to do. We are also running 3 copies of Starter Deck 8 Arrow Veedramon, mainly because it gives us jamming, and with the amount of draws that we're getting from this, we're going to have more than 8 cards in our hand, so that Security Attack +1 is actually comes in handy a lot. Now, as for our level 6s, 4 copies of Ulforce from BT-11. When Digivolving, you may play a blue Tamer from your hand without paying its cost. Your turn, when you play a blue Tamer, unsuspend this Digimon. Your turn, once per turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended, return one of your opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon to its owner's hand. For every blue Tamer you have in play, add 1 to the max level of the Digimon you can choose with this effect, which is very nice. Every one of our Tamers we can now play from Ulforce for free, essentially. If we needed a blocker, we can play Jerry to play Leomon, and then it's unsuspended, and then the possibilities are endless with that. I am also running 3 copies of BT-2 UlforceVeedramon, just because it is capable of unsuspending infinitely whenever one of our blue Tamers becomes suspended, so as long as you have a steady supply of blue Tamers, he can keep attacking. His only issue, unfortunately, is his stay power. He only has 11,000 DP, but that is where my experiment comes into play. He also has the effect of, once per turn, your turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended during your main phase, gain 1 memory. Now, we're only running 1 option card. Originally, I was running 3, being 1 Ice Wall, which we are keeping because it has come in clutch. It does. But the other 2 were Blue Memory Boost. And honestly, at this point, Blue Memory Boost can be a hindrance at times. You have enough abilities to search for your Veedramons. You don't want to be accidentally passing over your Tamers, which can be an issue if you're not able to find your Tamers. But Ice Wall, what more needs to be said? It basically puts all of your opponent's Digimon with the ability of, when attacking, lose 2 memory until the end of the next turn. And its security effect gives you 2 memory. It's Hammer Spark on crack. For our Tamers, though, we are running 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 Tamers. 13! That's a lot. That's as much as you'd see in a Crossheart deck, I'd imagine. Which we will cover in the future. But let's start with Rina. BT-11's Rina, the bane of my existence until recently. On play, until the end of your opponent's turn, one of your Digimon with Veemon or Veedramon in its name gains blocker and evade, which is great. Evade, unfortunately, doesn't protect from Digivolving, which is sad. But it does protect it if it were to possibly be killed in security, and you have a spare Tamer in hand, which you can just play to unsuspend him again. Preferably, this is why we are running V-Tamer Tai, because it is a cheap 2-cost card. It also will facilitate us draw power. But back to Rina. Rina also has all turns when one of your Digimon with Veedramon in its name becomes suspended. By suspending this tamer, activate one of your Digimons when Digivolving effects. So you're going to use this on Ulforce. You're going to play another tamer. It's going to unsuspend. You're going to, if you play another Rina, you can then use that Rina's effect to activate Ulforce's effect, play another tamer, unsuspend. If it's the third Rina, you're going to do it again. And every time he then becomes unsuspended because of Rina's effect, once per turn, gain a memory. So with 3 Rinas, you can chain it into 3 memory, which is really nice. We are also running 2 copies of BT-2's Rina. Your turn, when one of your blue Digimon attack, you may suspend this tamer to give that Digimon plus 1000 DP for the turn. We are using Rina and V-Tamer Tai specifically to give our BT2 Ulforce a bit more of a chance in security. Because if we're able to get like all 4 of those out, that's a plus 4000 onto BT2's Ulforce, giving him 15. Only thing he'll dive to is, level 7 stuff. But we also have It's on Play. Reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck. Add 1 card with V in its name among them to your hand. Place the remaining at the bottom in any order. We are also running 2 copies of Davis Motomiya. He still is a relevant card. A little easier to get now. Still, though, is somewhat expensive at times. But at least with this Davis, all you really need to do is get like a starter deck now. You don't... And sure, that's $13, but that does give you at least 2, maybe, I can't remember if it's 2 or 4 copies of the guy. Which, let's be honest, is a hell of a lot better than when we had to go through if we didn't have Davis back in the day. But he is still very relevant for this deck, at least at 2, because he is a searcher. We can add 1 blue or green Digimon card among them to our hand, place the remaining cards at the bottom of the deck in any order. That we can just add any of our roster here. We are running 2 copies of Jerry. Her on play lets us play a Leomon for free. And during our opponent's turn, if our opponent's Digimon attacks, you may suspend this tamer to draw 1. I cannot tell you, though, how many times I forget to use that effect. Oh well. It's still a very useful card because it does give us a free blocker. 2 copies of V-Tamer Tai. Its main phase effect, if you have a Digimon with Veedramon in its name, you may suspend him to activate one of the following effects. Trigger draw 1, or one of your Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for the turn. So, if it's early game, we can just use him to just get more draw power into fishing our deck for Rina or for Ulforce or for whatever we need. Or if we are going with BT2's Ulforce or even regular Ulforce here, we give him more DP. Finally, the culmination of our experiment. Giving Ulforce jamming. Because sometimes you're not going to have the DP to survive. Sure, with Evade and Blocker, you can survive once. But what if you didn't need to? And you can keep the blocker and not have to, constantly unsuspend and lose out on a chance, suspend and lose out on a chance of extra attacking. So that's why we are running the 3 Jellymon and Kiyoshiro, Higashimitari Taira. God, why is this name so long? Anyways, this is the promo version of him, though. So if you are able to get him, great. When you attack with a Digimon that has Jellymon in its Digivolution cards, you may suspend him to give it jamming for the turn. So all you need is 1 to suspend to give him jamming. And he'll be able to keep that jamming for every single attack that Ulforce will make. That is why we're only running 2, because we are only running 3 copies of Jelly. Now, if Jelly works out, I'm willing to bump it to 4. I will put this Vmon down to 2 maybe. I'm keeping this at 4. Keeping this at 2. So I'll probably just bump this down to 2, give this up to 4, and just ride that wave until the end. If I wanted, I might even find some way to bump Kiyoshiro up to 4 as well, 3 as well. But that is it for this deck. Let's talk about cards to tech in, though. Because, yeah, there are cards you can tech in if you want. Now, as I mentioned, Baby Domon is a Digi-Egg that people have been Debating on whether or not you use him or use Wanya. Either works. I also could recommend Upamon if you are able to have him. If you're a new player, please don't break your bank again. This is a $20 card at certain points. It's always been in like demand for some reason. Even though I now say it's not really, needed at certain points nowadays. We have other blue Digi-Eggs now that are really good. So if you don't want to use them, don't break your bank, please. For other Digimon, Veemon jamming for early aggression. This is the starter deck 8 Veemon. You're not using him for warp. You're not. Because by the time your opponent is already in their level 6s, you might have lost already. But we do use him for his inheritable of when attacking if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, trigger draw 1. Other cards I could recommend, Siako, just so your opponent can't reduce Digivolution cost. Say if you're, it's very good, especially in the Mastemon match, because it makes it so that they cannot reduce going into their Angelmon or Lady Devi from their Gato. Also, I recommend Madoki Beta, always useful. Makes it so that your opponent can't gain memory except from Tamers. Dracomon here from the starter deck is another viable option if you want searching. Just because it lets you search for any Dramon. And if you're running a strict Vedra build here, very useful. For level 4s though, starter deck 8 Veedramon is technically also similar to Jellymon in that its inheritable lets you bounce a level 3 back to your opponent's hand, but instead of when a card is added to your opponent's hand, it's if you have 8 or more cards in your hand. So if you did not want to run, say, Veedramon 0, this is a very good option. I do not recommend the others because they do not have inheritables that work or don't even exist. In the case of the other two types of Veedramons, one of them, they both don't have any inheritables. One of them lets you unsuspend it when you have a blue Tamer. The other gives it jamming if you have a blue Tamer. That's it. If you wanted early aggression, Veemon, jamming Veemon is always an option. Don't go with the others. Now, if you're trying to give evade, early on, Cordramon is very useful, I guess. It is a Dramon, so you could use that if you want. It is a 3 cost for Evo, though, which kind of sucks. So there is that. But I also say the starter deck Cordramon could be useful if you definitely want draw power, and it gives you an extra body on board. If you don't want to run a Leomon build package into it. For level 5s, now I did talk about AeroVeedramon and UlforceVeedramon Zeros. AeroVeedramon, when Digivolving, trash the top 3 cards of your deck, and then if you have a Tamer in play, this Digimon gets plus 3,000 DP for the turn, giving it 10,000. So, would I want to swing right then and there? Not really. Its inherited lets you, when attacking, place 3 non-Digi-Eggs from your trash to the bottom of your deck, and it gives him plus 2,000 DP for the turn. Going into Ulforce 0, and we'll just skip the other arrow right now, but to talk about him, UlforceVeedramon 0, when Digivolving, you may place 3 non-Digi-Egg cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck to unsuspend this Digimon and one of your Tamers. So, how that is going to be infinite is you're going to just keep proccing Rina off of, say, just keep proccing your Rina because it's going to suspend. It's going to activate Rina's effect to activate when Digivolving. You can then unsuspend Rina and just keep doing that. So if you don't have a lot of Rinas and you kind of want to get the most bang out of your buck for your 1 or 2 copies of Rina and still play this deck, I will make a Ulforce Veedramon 0 build of this deck in the future and cover it. Because it kind of does give you somewhat infinite attacks until it dies. And the plus 2,000 will bring it to 14. And the Veedramon 0 is just going to constantly give you a steady stream. As long as your trash is packed, you're kind of good. It's also has a your turn once per turn. When a card is returned from your trash to your deck, gain 1 memory. It is a once per turn effect, but still, that's something. Back to the other level 5 is the old BT-2 AeroVeedramon. When Digivolving, if you have a blue Tamer in play, unsuspend one of your blue Digimon, and then when it's inheritable, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended during your main phase, it gains jamming. So this was used in some of the older builds. If, for the example, the Veedramon that gains jamming if you have a blue Tamer is going to, say, suspend itself by attacking with jamming. You Digivolve into Arrow Veedramon here. He unsuspends itself. You can maybe swing. It survives. You Digivolve into, say, one of your Ulforces. It unsuspends because you suspended one of your Tamer. It now gains jamming for the turn. So it's another way of running Kiyoshiro. But it is reliant on, that kind of factor. And I feel like Kiyoshiro might actually work better because I do want to maintain those security attack +1s. And I want to maintain my search power from the new Arrow Veedramon. For option cards, though, Hammer Spark is always an option. It always is. As I mentioned, Blue Memory Boost, the issue and con for it is it does have a possibility of passing over your Tamers. And you're not able to pick a Tamer from it. It targets Digimon. Otherwise, if it comes out of your security, that's good. Sorai is another option I could say. It's a cheap 4 cost. You trash top 4 Digivolution cards, one of your opponent's Digimon, and then your opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution cards can attack until the end of their next turn. For level 7s, I have seen people run Blitz Omni just for game possibility and Omnimon Merciful Mode. Now, the Merciful Mode is interesting. I've seen people specifically say this card is meant for matchups against Black War Gray because you're going to Digivolve it for each Mega in their traits in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, delete one of your opponent's Digimon. So usually what I've been hearing is they're going to go into their Blitz Omni, swing, it's not game, go into Merciful Mode. You can target one of your opponent, your Black War, it'll survive, you target it again, essentially. And then you place 10 cards from your opponent's trash at the bottom of their deck in any order, which these same people are saying it's great when you're going against purple decks. Because purple decks naturally rely on trash a lot. Mastemon is a very nice example of that. Its start of turn effect also is trash the top card of this Digimon. If you do, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. So it does give you options. Personally speaking, if I were to run it, I would only run one of it. I don't know what I would take out. Maybe a Tamer or two in order to put it in, or something. I'm not sure yet. Otherwise, though, for other possible Tamers, if you're not running Davis, the other Kiyoshiro from BT-9 is a good extra one. It does give you draw power if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand and you're attacking with a level 5 or higher Digimon, or a Digimon that has Jellymon in its name, and it is a memory setter. Another Tamer that I might say could be useful, Sora and Joe, just because your opponent might be doing a lot of hard playing in certain matchups, and in that case, you can just gain 2 memory off of that. It also does let you, so you can suspend it in order to trash the bottom 2 Digivolution cards of one of your opponent's Digimon. That could be a very useful tech when you're going against, say, Machinedramon, which relies on basically putting cards under it. And that is it for this deck. Now, I'm happy that I finally got my 3rd copy of Rina. I did test it out at 2 in a tournament earlier, and while I did lose 2 of my 3 matches, I did win 1 match against Mastemon. Yes, my opponent kind of bricked a little, but honestly, I want to say the MVP for that first game, though, was BT2 Ulforce. Put in the finest of work, but that's neither here nor there. I'm really happy for Ulforce. I love the Ulforce line. I'm just sad that Rina is a secret rare, and it's so hard to find and so expensive to get. If you have a lot of alt arts or some secrets that you are not using and you are trying to get a Rina, that is your best bet, is to just lower the cost enough so that you can just buy it. I had to trade in 2 regular art Alphamon Oryukens, 1 alternate art Alphamon Oryuken, 2 Susanoo-mons, and 1 regular art copy of Jesmon GX. I had to trade all of these into a store, and it came up to $53. I had to pay the remaining 10 on my own because I didn't want to part with anything else. But again, that is it for this analysis. As usual, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I know a lot of people who do watch these videos, you're not subscribed. I really would like it if you could subscribe. It makes me happy to know that people are watching my videos. I started this channel a little over a year ago now. I unfortunately missed my 1-year anniversary, and I do thank everybody who has subscribed and watched this. I actually will be making a personal video about that in probably the next day or so. But as usual, leave a like. Tell me what you think about this. What are your opinions on Ulforce? Please do not just comment, you gotta run 4 Rinas. I hear that enough at tournaments. But I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.